Okay, we are in Jacksonville, Florida, in these divided states of America. Not united. Definitely not united. Had a conversation the other day. It's kind of ironic. O'Brien Burnett III, who is a singer, songwriter, musician, he actually composed, you remember the Soul Train theme song?
Yeah, the Soul Train. I don't actually remember what it is. I just know Soul Train.
Not that one. But he was a protege of Don Cornelius.
Okay.
And so he actually wrote and sang that song. Well, he mentioned the other day, he made a remark about how he was upset because Sears was going out of business. And ironically, Sears here in Jacksonville, the last remaining Sears, well, actually it's in Orange Park, is going out of business. And he was talking about how Sears was a part of his childhood and how he had such fond memories of Sears. And I explained to him that I had memories of Sears, but they weren't fond memories.
Yeah, it's definitely a different
different memories. In fact, I did not even go inside of a Sears. I never even applied for a Sears card while my father was living. He never knew that I shopped at Sears.
And the reason for that, like expound, so people who don't know,
the reason
why
for that
you feel so strongly towards that
was because there was a day that was called Axe Handle Saturday that took place in 1960, in the fall of 1960 in Jacksonville, Florida. It was segregation. Integration was taking place. Florida, being in the South, did not want to integrate.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been okay if it was separate but equal, but we had separate water fountains. Our water fountains weren't anything that you wanted to drink out of. It wasn't cold. It wasn't hygienic. Bathrooms were segregated. Even as far as 1972, I recall as a little girl going into a laundromat with my mother to do laundry, and there was a sign in there that said white only, and I thought it meant you could only wash white clothes there. Being a child, that was my logic. So we actually left, and I thought, oh well, we're leaving because we've got colored clothes. I didn't realize that it meant white people only. My father was working downtown, in the downtown area of Jacksonville. He had several jobs. We had a large family, several jobs. So he was leaving one job, intending to go to another job, and there were riots going on. And Sears gave out axe handles. Back then, axes didn't come put together. They were separate. So you would buy your axe handle and the blade of the axe, the head of the axe, separately. But they were giving out axe handles to anyone who would bust a nigga in the head with it. And my father, who was known to be a fighter, he was actually a Golden Glove boxer. He was a fighter, but he was outnumbered. And so he had to run, which was several miles where we lived from downtown, to keep from being killed. and Sears gave those axe handles out. So that was my memory of Sears, and so we weren't allowed to even though a lot of places were segregated, Sears was not someplace we even went in. We didn't shop there, didn't buy anything there, and I was actually afraid to, as long as my father was alive. I felt like that would just somehow, dishonor him, so to speak. But on the other hand, where they had the sit-ins at Woolworths at the lunch counters were segregated. You would have to go into the back door, pay for your food, and then take it to go. You couldn't sit at the lunch counter and eat. And so a local activist by the name of Rodney Hurst, he wrote a book about that called "It Wasn't About a Hot Dog and a Coke." So if you Google it, buy it, it's on Amazon, I believe. But his name is Rodney Hurst. But it wasn't about a hot dog and a Coke. It was about rights. So Rodney Hurst was one of the people that sat in at the counter, and they got arrested for sitting at the counter. They actually went to jail. And that particular day kicked off more riots, more race riots. But that time, when they brought, the good old boys in on the backs of pickup trucks, but it was different from Axe Handle Saturday, because what they had done was they sent for the Boomerang Gang. The Boomerang Gang was headed by a relative of ours, a cousin, Bobby Rivers. He was the leader of the Boomerang Gang, and they were kind of like a modern day, like guardian angel, vigilante. Well, not so much vigilante, but protectors. So they were ready for him. So this time, when they, brought in the people, when the boomerangs started coming from what was called Black Bottom, right now it's Jefferson Street, the projects, that area, there's a pool there. In fact, the Jefferson Street pool in the basement area, the downstairs area, that was where, because it used to be segregated police precincts. So that was the black policeman's precinct. And then they had the white one, which is where, the sheriff's office and all that is. But back then, a black officer could not arrest a white person. They could detain them and hold them until a white officer came. And sometimes, if they fought against it, if the citizen fought against it, they couldn't even do that. They couldn't arrest them or anything. But a white officer could, of course, do whatever they wanted to a black person. But anyway, the Boomerang Gang came from down around the Jefferson Street area. It's called Black Bottom. And the reason it was called Black Bottom was because that's where predominantly black people live. And so they came, and so they ran the races out of downtown when they heard that, when they just heard that the boomerangs were coming, they got out of town. So they were gone. And the funny thing about it is that birth certificates, your dad's birth certificate said that he was colored. Mine said that I was a Negro. And I remember G-Man and Keith's, theirs said black. And I believe by the time you and Keita came around, we were African American. So we've gone through the whole spectrum. When you think about it, it's one of those things that You know, it's humorous. One of those things that you have to see the humor in it to keep from it making you angry. Because that anger, it can consume you if you let it.